Welcome back to another episode of Bulletproof Mindset, your go-to podcast for health, fitness and entertainment. I'm your host Dale Crossar, and in today's episode we're talking about other ways you can measure success when it comes to your fitness results. Now, the weight in the scales is absolutely one measurement of are you on the right track, but it's almost irrelevant, and in today's episode you're going to hear why. Now, before we go into the episode, all I want to say is if you're new around here, you can expect episodes every Monday and Thursday at 6 a.m. Not missed a beat for the last 2 years, so damn well sure I won't miss a beat for the next 2 years at least. Now, one of the best ways you can support the show is by leaving a 5-star rating on Spotify or subscribing to us on YouTube. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can check the handle below or follow me at Coach Crossar and follow the podcast page at Bulletproof Mindset __. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you've got a question, let me know in the comments below this video. Reach out to me personally if you want to. And until next time, enjoy. Are you someone that gives so much power to the weight on the scales? Every morning, maybe once a week, maybe once a month, whenever you choose to do it, do you jump on the scales and you give that little digital number that comes up on the screen? Why is it that you give that number so much power over your life? And I know you're someone that's sitting there. In fact, many of us, we fall into this trap. We let it have this emotional hold over how our mood is, how we go about our day, how we feel about ourselves. Well, in today's episode, I'm going to communicate and list, I think I've got about 8 or 9 different ways you can measure success when it comes to your fitness goals. And look, before I even get into this, right, the weight in the scales, I'm not saying it's completely irrelevant, but seeing the grand scheme of things, it absolutely is, all right? The way that we've hammered this into fitness, into health, into just general life, anytime you're on this fitness pursuit, what's the first thing someone says to you? Oh my gosh, you look like you've lost so much weight. How fucking rude, eh? And there's nothing worse. Well, not that there's plenty of things that are worse, of course, but when you're on this fitness journey and you're weighing yourself, but you don't see the weight in the scales come down, but you start to feel a bit better, and someone's like, oh my God, how much weight have you lost? And you're like, not much. And you start to feel a bit shit about yourself. And in reality, you should be feeling good about yourself because you see all these things starting to change. So that's what today's episode is going to be about. Came up in conversations with many clients this past week. And look, I get it, right? There's a weight or there's a number associated to the weight that little digital scale says back to you. And it's not about the number. It's probably reflects more of what's happened in the past when you've weighed that much. So for most people, there's an emotional attachment to this where the weight in the scales is maybe 10 kilos lighter. And they remember a time of their life where less stress, more flexibility in the food they were eating, feeling a bit about themselves, feel that they looked good and they were doing all these wonderful things. But see, in reality, you never truly appreciate your health and your fitness when you've got it until you then swing the pendulum so far the other way. And what I mean by that is I've got clients that I've worked with over the past couple of years where they're comparing themselves to high school. Right, high school was 15 years ago for my age group, and sometimes it's even further away. Working with clients who compare themselves pre-kids, which they've got kids in their 20s, and I'm like, why are we so judgmental to this one little period of our life? And really, it comes down to fixated on looks, and that how you view yourself in front of the mirror. You associate that with the weight in the scales, but those two things don't really go hand in hand. And through the whole fitness eruption, the kind of growing information, TikToks, YouTube videos, podcasts like these, and Instagram, starts to play into this more emphasis on weight. And look, it is shifting to more the aesthetics, the body composition side of things. But it's still, to this day, in 2024, people are giving so much power to the scales. And after today's episode, that's going to change for sure, right? So what I'm going to do is run through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I've got a wee bonus one. So 10 different measurements of success when you know you're on the right path, right? And that's really what it comes down to. When you're working out, when you're dedicating so much time, energy and effort to getting quote unquote fitter or healthier, The only metric of success that you tie an attachment to is the number on the scales. So let's say that number's 80 kilos, you want it to be 70, right? So you want to see over the next 10 weeks, over the next 15 weeks, the scales going from 80, 79, 78, 76, so far, so forth, right? Now, in a fat loss phase, you absolutely can expect anywhere from half a kilo to 1.5 kilos maybe, depending on how much weight you have to lose, of weight loss if you stay in that fat loss phase, you stay in that deficit. And if you continue that theme, that's the average of what you can expect to lose week on, week out, right? And this is an interesting conversation that I have with every single client. So clients have wanted to lose upwards of 10 kilos, 20 kilos, and sometimes even 30 kilos, right? Regardless of what that is, I normally do this math with them, right? So the client that came to me, or clients that have come to me recently, I think the average was about 30 kilo, right? So they want to lose 30 kilos, and if we don't do anything, so if you're an avid listener of what I've been talking about over the past year, couple of years, you'll know that the first phase we go into is building strength, speeding up the metabolism, building muscle, building confidence, all this sort of stuff. That's not even the fat loss phase, right? Albeit you can still lose fat and still see body composition changes, but truly just speaking about weight loss and like the goal of that weight in the scales, this is the math that you would do. So you would do 0.5, how much weight you want to lose. So I want to lose, let's say I want to lose 20 kilos in this instance. So I do 20 divided by the lower amount of the average, 0.5. For me to lose 20 kilos of weight on the lower side of the scales, it's going to take me around 40 weeks of consistency showing up in that calorie deficit. That's a long time to go through, right? Now, most people want to lose like 5 to 10 kilo, right? So on that side of things, again, you're still looking at about 20 weeks. Now, let's play the other side of this. So most people can expect to lose upwards of 1 to 1.5 kilo of weight, right? So I'm just going to put in 1.3. So again, I'm going to put in 20 divided by 1.3. And that would give me around 15 weeks, all right, to reach the number on the scales. Now, this is where you start to understand, I don't know if I want to be in a calorie deficit or a diet for that long. Now, the truth is, over the next 40 weeks, if I started to pursue this weight loss journey, I'd probably make a good argument for about 5-6 weeks in, I'm going to start to see changes and I'm going to start to feel happy and probably confident in where I'm going with this. Now, do I need to fulfill the whole 40 weeks? Absolutely not. That's another thing people don't think. They have this weight in mind, but usually losing 7 kilos gets them to their place where they're feeling better about themselves and reaping the rewards of these other benefits that we're going to talk through in a little sec. So the weight in the scales, yes, there's a bit of merit to it, but it is generally irrelevant. Now, if you want to make it all about the weight in the scales, then that's the math that you need to do, right? You basically do your average, how much weight you want to lose, and start to pursue that calorie deficit, and then also you can layer how your training approach is and all this different things, right? We're not talking about that in today's episode, but if you do a good job at it, that's where your range of what you can expect to lose. Now, in amongst that, you've got fat, and then depending on the type of training you do, you've got muscle. And you want to retain as much muscle as you can while dropping fat. We've done episodes on this in the past, so again, we're not going to go over this. I would highly recommend, if you're hearing this podcast for the first time, probably check out the reverse diet episode and the why burning calories isn't the best approach episode. I'll leave a link in the show notes below. So putting all that to the side, you're like, right, okay, but I still have this emotional hold over the weight in the scales. How do I break that? There's a couple of different strategies, but first let's talk about what else can we put in place to measure success? Because we can't just blindly expect progress to happen without there being any sort of measurement. This is probably a frustration that most coaches find in the space, and equally I'm the same, where you're coaching a client and you don't have any data to measure, was that a good week? Was it a not so good week? Could we have made improvements, or did we hit the nail on the head? And without data, we can't really make a decision if we're on the right track. And more importantly, do we need to change anything? Because life ain't that straight downwards road or upwards road, however you want to look at this. You can't expect everything to go so swimmingly that it's 80 kilos on the scales, the next week is 79, 78, 76. More or less, it looks like 80 on the kilos, 80 kilos on the scales, 79, 79.5, 78, 80 kilos, 78, so on and so forth. So it's like a stock chart. But if you keep showing up, you keep consistent, then you'll see that stock chart start to trend downwards in the way that you want it to, okay? So metrics need to be in place. So what metrics should we have? Now, I'm going to break these down into categories. So the first one, which is an obvious one, body composition, right? I do measurements with every single one of my clients, and I do this because I think it's a better approach than photos. Now, photos are just equally as useful here. So taking a picture front, side and back, and then comparing that every 3 months, every 6 weeks. It depends on your relationship with your body image and all these sort of things, which we'll talk about in a little sec. But body composition changes, measuring general measurements, the arm, the waist, the hips, the thighs, and guys, I guess if you want to measure your neck and your chest and your shoulders, crack on. But they are the main ones that I would take measurements over. And I guess most people want to see their waist come in a little bit. They want to see that measurement coming in. And this is a great little snapshot of taking that at one part of your journey and then retaking it again. Now, recommendations for this one, I would say try and give it 5 to 6 weeks every time you do this, all right? But let's remember, all we're doing is talking about what can we put in place to measure, are we on the right path to more fitness success, right? So, measurements, body measurements. You can also do calipers if you know how to do that. You can do another thing to measure your muscle mass. Now, these machines aren't great if I'm being truthful. They can be very inaccurate, and the only thing I would say is if you're going to do a machine where you stand on, it's called, I think it's biometric impedance or something like that. You know what I'm like with words and dyslexia and all that sort of stuff. But essentially it sends like it's not a shock, but an electric signal from where you're holding on through your body and measures it through your fat-free mass and your water intake and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, there's a lot of variables in that where it can be skewed off. So it might show that you're 28% body fat, but in reality you might be 23, you might be a wee bit heavier. But regardless, if that's the route you're going to go down, make sure it's the same machine that you're testing every so often. So even if that machine's off by 5-10%, then at least as it trends down or you see muscle mass increasing, it's measuring the same sort of thing, if that makes sense. So that's the other one to measure muscle mass. You can do the calipers, as I said. That's a little bit more trickier to do. There can be inaccuracies with any of these, of course, but making sure that we're pinching the same area of the body as per the caliper test. And as I said, the last one is kind of visible changes. You're going to see changes when it comes to the clothes that you wear, but more importantly, the pictures is a good one, front, side and back, and then you should visibly see changes over a period of time, however long it is that you're pursuing this. And the trick here is that you should be on this journey forever. It shouldn't just be about weight loss, but we'll circle back to that at the end. Okay, so that's our body composition changes. The next part is our performance. How do we measure performance? Well, a nice easy one is, are we getting stronger? Now, this is the number one reason I will always tell you to track your sessions. Make sure that it is somewhere in your programming, whether it's the notes in your phone, it's the old school notebook, or it's a free app or a paid app where you're able to write down the workouts that you're doing and measure progress. Now, getting stronger isn't 1 rep maxes, okay? That's not what it's about. Getting stronger is relative to whatever you're doing on your journey, depending on the exercises and the program that you're following, okay? So for someone doing their 10 reps body weight squats, then that can be them getting stronger, because 10 reps becomes 12, 12 becomes 15, so on and so forth. Just like someone doing a 3 rep max squat and achieving 100 kilos for the first time. Again, strength is relative to where you're on this journey, but the main thing that we should be tracking is week on week, is there an extra rep? Is there an extra bit of weight, or is there an extra set in terms of total volume are we improving on? Now, I'll come back to this in a sec, but essentially your strength side of things can also be measured by your range of motion, because that's another thing to think about. Is your mobility getting better? Now, this kind of comes into a point later, so not to talk too much about this just now, but it's something to consider. But a nice easy one, more reps, heavier weight. Is that happening throughout your programming? Next one is improved endurance, right? Now, this one can catch you off guard because albeit that your journey isn't, you might not be in this to be a better runner, to be a better endured athlete, but let's say you do a 20-minute walk. Does that 20-minute walk get easier? Because it should. That is also another improvement that you should see happening. Strength and muscle building and body composition shouldn't just be that all these other areas of your life are neglected, because I bet you that if I say to you, do you want a six-pack? And you're like, yes, we get you in six-pack condition, absolutely shredded, your sleep shit, your nutrition shit, your body image is shit, your mental health is shit, your endurance is shit, you don't feel good in yourself, you'd start to go, actually it isn't about just the body composition changes. We want to feel fitter, we want to feel healthier as a whole. So remember that endurance is just an important part to factor in here. Now, endurance doesn't have to be running, doesn't have to be long distances. It generally can be a walk, it can be a faster paced walk, a hill climb, it can be a bike, it can be the rower, whatever it is, you can measure that. And I would highly recommend that there's maybe like 20 minutes, 25 minutes of an activity based thing that you can introduce every 4 weeks, or maybe you do it weekly, where you should see the improvement start to happen on that. Now, to get better at endurance, you need to program endurance. So with that being said, there is a part where your endurance will still improve if you're doing the right style of programming. I've seen this happen with many clients where the feedback has been, here, I've not cycled for X amount of weeks and I just cycled that past weekend. I was very surprised at how efficient my body felt. And that's the power of strength training. It's the power of compound lifts and choosing a nice structured program that you need to follow. That's besides the point though. Endurance, I think you'd be pretty bought in here. It could be the sled drives, it could be higher reps in terms of your compound lifts. If you ever try and do 15 to 20 rep squats, Bulgarians, walking lunges, deadlifts, pull-ups, you will feel the heart starting to rise, okay? So that is a way that you can tap in and measure that endurance. So I mentioned just earlier there about the flexibility and the mobility side of things. Again, when it comes to range of motion, active range of motion, do we see improvements start to happen there? And this is another part of the progressive overload episode we done a number of months ago, where it's not always just about the weight on the bar, the number of reps you're doing. Sometimes it can be that you've improved your mobility, you've improved your flexibility, and you feel more stable and balanced. And that's a great point to kind of throw in there and start to assess. Some drills you can do is video yourself side on from your depth of your squat, and just from a confidence side of things, are you getting better at that? Mastering a new skill is also the last one in this pillar when it comes to performance, like a push-up, a pull-up, handstands, any sort of acrobatic move. Generally can be anything, just mastering the skill of the deadlift, overhead snatch, overhead press. There's so much that can fall into this category, and again, it's very person dependent. Performance, I would also say, it could be running your first kilometre, and then that kilometre becoming 2 kilometres, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. So that kind of wraps up. So far we got body composition, we got the performance improvements. Okay, so the next one's going to be, I'm going to call this the biofeedback markers or health markers. Now I've not actually done this episode in a long time, and it's one I want to review, but I want to do that once I've got more data with the new batch of clients I've just taken through, because I've not quite pulled that lever on what we're doing with them yet. But in the past, these have been great things to measure if we are improving our overall health and fitness. Now, when we're talking about health markers, obviously blood pressure, when you're getting your bloods done, are you seeing a rise in the on your hormones? Are you seeing a good panel come back in terms of what's good and bad? Is your ranges getting better? That's something to consider, where we get our car MOT'd once a year. Why don't we do it with our body that we're in for? We only get one body, one life, and we don't do it with that. So it can be an excellent thing to but consistently do, to build up some data. Because what you might do is, it's one thing I'm a bit regretful of not doing in my early 20s, is getting that blood work done at the age of 20, 21, 22, 23, to see this trend of what's happened between those years. And sometimes you might go even further, do it every 6 months, do it every quarter, because you can start to see how life can affect your hormones, how life can affect your general output of why things might not be working. You can develop food intolerances, you can develop just bad habits where you're maybe staying up a bit later and that sleep quality that you're getting is not there anymore, and then that has a bad effect on your testosterone or your whatever it is. So the other side of this is what I was referring to as biofeedback. Now, things that would fall into this category would be stress, overall mood for the day, energy, libido, so like your sex drive. For guys, ours pretty easily measured. Do we have an erection when we wake up in the morning? And if the answer is like no to that question, then that's a sign of like poor sleep, poor quality food, poor exercise, or maybe just something's not firing that should be. And then we'd highlight the point of why you might want to get your bloods done. The other thing is the sleep quality. And then we can bring in some other data here, like your resting heart rate, and a few other things, but I'm not going to dive deep into it. Usually when it comes to your biofeedback, you want to kind of have this play, right? Now, the important part of your biofeedback and how to measure this is simple. It's a traffic light system. You use a spreadsheet of some sort or have just something where you can mark red, amber, green. How would you rate that for the previous day? Now, you kind of need to do this for a good couple of weeks before you start getting better intuition on what's good and what's bad, right? So, an example, I would ask you right now, how was your sleep last night? Now, you probably think, yeah, my sleep was okay, so I'll write that down as amber. Maybe you even might write it down as green. Now, if I ask you every day for the next 14 days, and you're like, yep, okay, a very neutral response, when you have a bad night's sleep, because you're asking yourself that question every day of the previous night, you know when it's a good night's sleep and you know when it's a bad night's sleep. So you get a better accurate of, wow, that was a really good night's sleep last night, or no, that wasn't a great night's sleep. What happened there? Oh, I had a takeaway, I had a drink, I had whatever it is that's going on. And it allows you to start to redefine, right, is that something I want to continue with? So an example would be the takeaway, because this is the common one. People don't really piece together that when they're having that takeaway, things start to go off when it comes to their quality sleep, their mood. The other one was digestion. Sorry, I never mentioned that one. Just messing up their stomach and their your poos and all that sort of stuff. So a very important part of our overall health and fitness is our gut. It's our gut health. And as we're tracking these qualities, we start to piece together, right, when I work out, I actually feel a wee bit better. When I don't work out, then I don't feel so good, which is an obvious one. But when you see it in black and white, or in this case, green, amber and red, then you can start to get a stronger response of what you need to do, what changes do you need to make, but more importantly, are you on the right path? Now, equally, you might be an adrenaline junkie. You might be someone that is caught up into this world of high intensity training and you're battering your body, but your stress is so through the roof through kids, work, whatever it may be. Then that would be me. If I'm your coach through that process, I might be looking for you to adjust your training, because your body's in this fight or flight state too often, and it means your sleep then is off, and it means your hormone profile's then thrown off, and you don't feel great in yourself, and your stress is high, and you feel like you're gaining weight. It's just like this vicious circle or knock-on effect where momentum's getting built in the opposite way. So biofeedback is such a powerful thing to do. Now, if I'm being honest, it's more of an advanced thing, and you can just focus on what we've said already. Just focus on getting stronger in the gym. You don't need to focus on all of these things. The whole point of today's episode is to get you thinking a bit differently, other than that fucking weight that's on the scales, because it means fuck all. Okay, on to the next one. And what I'll say here for it is mental clarity. Again, this could be brought back to under the bracket of your tracking, and you're tracking your biofeedback or your biometrics, okay? Now, you might just want to track how you're feeling with your mood, right? Do you feel like you've got this focus, or do you feel a bit clouded, a bit judged, a bit faded? I don't know, whatever word you want to use here. But it's a great way to assess fitness, because we know that through lifting weights, getting stronger, just working out in general, it's good for the mind. And if you're not doing that, then again, you can start to piece together, when I'm working out on Mondays, my mental clarity is good on the Tuesday. But tying this into other metrics like your sleep and all these different things, it might be better to do, or stringing 3 or 4 of them together, because it'll allow you to see if it's the food side of things or is the workout side of things, is that on the right track? Okay, another thing to consider is just overall daily life improvements, right? can you pick up your kids without pain? Can you climb the stairs without making a noise? And when I say can you get off the couch without making a noise? We all know that person. It's usually our parents or grandparents. We stand up off the couch and back down. That's a sign that, look, we need to up the game here, right? So the goal, try not make a noise, right? Try and are you being more positive in the way you're communicating, the way you're going about life? And more importantly, the way you're doing things. Are you able to carry the shopping in one go, right? That's usually a feat of strength. Are you able to kind of do some projects around the house that maybe you weren't able to do before? I had clients before that wanted to just go on these sort of, I think it's like adventure days that they normally do in Glasgow, where it's like it's not an Easter egg hunt, but it's similar to that, but they've been embarrassed to do that before because they didn't feel they had the level of fitness to walk about Glasgow for the day. So it might just be having the ability to go out shopping. Like, these are all things that you start to rob yourself of or don't think about or take for granted that could be actually improving. It's a sign that you're getting stronger, you're getting more mobile, you're reducing your pain, and you're improving your quality of life. Again, things like increased stamina. Can you play sports? Can you play activities? Can you join in the kids clubs? Can you do whatever it is? But definitely think about what is something that you do in a day-to-day life that you find quite challenging just now, and is that improving? Because it could be a strong metric to focus on as you evolve through your fitness journey. Now, the reason I say that is because sometimes your fitness journey might be misaligned to what you actually want to see get better. So if you're someone who's like I struggle to get down on the floor and play with my kids, but you're then doing high intensity classes and running 10Ks, it's like, well, maybe we need to align where that fitness journey is just now, work on the thing that's giving you the most pain, and then we can layer some of these other things on top of it. Okay, but one of the last ones, like when I was doing a bit of research on this had came up, and it absolutely has its part, but do you feel more confident? Is your body image getting better? Now, I would say that's strong. There's another episode, we probably need to dive deeper into this, but body image, if it's all around the look side of things, you arguably will create a poorer body image for yourself. However, if you tie it to some of these other metrics, like getting stronger, getting more mobile, getting pain-free, you will increase your confidence levels because you're kind of self-empowering yourself. You're self-empowering yourself, that's a bit of a tongue twister, but you're gaining more self-confidence. You're spinning the wheel of, I was once never able to do this. Now I'm able to do it. I'm not even able to do it now. I'm able to do it with confidence and with ease. That's such an empowering thing to do. And that's through the power of lifting weights. It's through the power of resistance training. And this is one to think about. What's things, again, in your life that you're doing just now where you maybe don't have the self-esteem to, I don't know, it could be rocking an outfit or showing up to an event. But through this pursuit, forget the scales and tying some of these other things in, you'll see improvements when it comes to this. When it comes to your consistency and habits, this is another thing. Forget weighing yourself. It's great that you can weigh yourself every day, but if it's messing your mood, put that to the side. Like, you're able, it's mental that you can show consistency jumping on the scales every single day, but you can't be consistent with drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning every single day. That's pretty mental, isn't it? So you see, we're shifting your focus a little bit and going, right, if I can consistently box off these habits and get a streak going, then that's going to build momentum. With some habits that I would like to envision myself doing: 20-minute walk every single day, drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning, implementing these things, start gaining momentum. You might do it for 5 days, fall off on day 6. Well, guess what? The goal's next time, can you do it for 6 days, 7 days, 8 days? Try and gamify it, make it a bit more fun and engaging for what you're going after. Hydration and self-care, they are two of the most underrated things that you can do when it comes to your habits. So washing your face, brushing your teeth, your self-care routine is just as important as your fitness routine, as your lifting weights routine. It encompasses this overall health and fitness goal. Now, the last thing I'd say on the consistency and habit side of things would potentially be your nutrition, okay? Now, nutrition, again, is a very complex one. What's a good food? What's a bad food? Where are you at in your fitness journey, your life, all this sort of stuff? It's, again, putting all that to the side. Could the goal be you're going to have home-cooked meals? You're going to make your own food because then you can control what goes into it. And you're not seeing all these crazy oils or mad fucking additional stuff that's then cooked in with your takeaways and all this sort of stuff. Maybe it might be just reducing the takeaways that you have. It might be making your own home fakeaway, whatever you want to call it. But these are areas of improvement that you can start to work on. You might be someone that has 4 or 5 takeaways a week and you want to try and reduce that. So a win for you is over the next 8 weeks, can we get that average from 5 to 2 to 3 to 1 to none? Whatever the goal is, that helps you kind of pursue there. Now, that nicely kind of ties into one of the last points here, in fact, the last point, which is your personal milestones. Reaching a specific goal. So this is important here. So the goal, obviously, as we said at the start, it's usually body composition. It's around the weight and the scale. We need to shift this goal, okay? So we need to start thinking of other things that we want to achieve. Is it a 5K? Is it being able to run without stopping for a mile? Is it being able to do a 10K, deadlift a certain weight, squat a certain weight? Is that a yoga pose? It could generally be anything, but a goal needs to be set for your first pull-up, your first press-up, your first squat, whatever it may be. That goal needs to be aligned in your fitness result, right? Or in your fitness pursuit, should I say, because that's then going to shift the mindset away from the weight and the scales and put it to more something that's performance-based. I would argue that you're always best to have a performance goal, even if your role or your want in this fitness space is to lose weight or to change your body composition, should I say, because it allows you a longer runway to take off, right? If you just want to lose weight in a certain period of time, you've got this shortened window of what you want to do, and most likely you're going to yo-yo diet or have the pendulum swing from one side to the other and just be caught in this constant loop. So having a specific goal and reaching a specific goal gives you this gives you this energy, this bounce back of, wow, that felt amazing, when's the next one? And then you set more and more goals. Now, the other thing here is actually celebrating the non-scale victory. So celebrating what you've done, improving your sleep, getting a better range of motion, lifting a certain weight. So every point that we said here, when it's improving, create the space to recognise that, fuck, I'm on the right track. Because if you don't celebrate it, then again, it's like people coming up to you and go, oh, you've lost so much weight, but you don't know how much you've lost because you've not been measuring it and you're not celebrating it. You're just like, it is what it is. So it's important to celebrate it. And with that being said, those are the 9 other things that you can focus on to measure success when it comes to your fitness goals. So remember, that little number that shows up in that scale, that doesn't mean much at all. I've got many stories I can share with you, and you know what, one that I posted about this week I'll share with you, okay? 0.3 kilograms on average is being lost on the scales, right? But 15 centimetres has dropped off this person's waist. That is metrics that you want to receive, but guess what we didn't focus on? We didn't focus on dieting, we didn't focus on fat loss. All we done was go, you've never been in the gym before, let's get you confident lifting these weights inside the gym. Let's get you confident building your squat. And also the programming side of things is the biggest thing that's helped with this, but starting to build habits that this person wants to envision as they pursue this fitness journey. They want to be able to show up for the kid. They want to be able to show up for themselves, more importantly. And we never weighed necessarily to see the weight come down. All it was to do was to paint a picture of, right, where does your weight fluctuate? Now, this is a point I want to finish on. To break the relationship with the scales and having so much hold over you, I wouldn't say bin them, right? There is times to move away from the weight and the scales, and you might have to do that initially, but ultimately you need to face that fear, and we need to start weighing ourselves, but also putting our measurement of success into other areas. A tip I do, I get my clients to weigh that. So most people work a Monday to Friday, right? So I would typically get someone to weigh at the start and the end, right? So Monday, Friday, Monday, Friday, Monday, Friday, Monday, Friday. Make sure it's the first thing in the morning after your morning business, your pee, your poo, whatever you end up doing. But essentially that collates this little data point. Now what you're not doing is comparing your Monday weight to your Friday weight. You're comparing Monday to Monday, Friday to Friday. And you get to get this little picture of, how is the weight trending? Now, if it's trending up Friday to Monday, then most likely it's because you're out with your structure at the weekend. You're eating different foods, you're maybe going out, you're having a few extra glasses of wine, couple of beers, whatever it is, right? But essentially over time, you should see the average of those measurements drop down if you're pursuing some of these other metrics. To lose weight, to lose fat, you need to go into this calorie deficit. Doing the math at the start, that's the average that you should see come down. But I would argue that focus on the performance side of things, focus on the strength, more importantly, for a period of time, and that'll help you overcome this hurdle. Because as you get stronger, you start to feel good, you start to gain confidence, and you start to believe that you can do this. A lot of people going into a diet and they've already got this bad relationship with the scales. You're in a negative headspace to start with because you want to see that number come down so bad. So you do you have this extreme approach, eating so little food, exercising your heart out. And as you know, if you listen to the previous episode we done last Monday, then you'll know why that's a bad approach, because it doesn't lead you to the results that you're wanting. So redefine your milestones, redefine the goals that you want to achieve. And it's a nice little segue into the next episode we're going to do on goal setting. So keep an eye out for that one. And with that being said, that'll wrap up today's episode. So thank you again for tuning in. I love you and leave yous. You know what to do if you're a listener already. Best way you can support the show is by sharing on your Instagram, following me on Instagram at Coach Crossar or at Bulletproof Mindset __. If you're listening on Spotify, give it a wee rating. 5 stars would be very much appreciated. And until next time, have a good one.